Welcome back to LePodcast episode 76. I'm your host, Hoop.
And I'm your host, Sani. And in today's episode, we focus solely on Game 6 of the Boston Celtics and Miami Heat series, deep diving into every minute detail about the game, going over what we thought and what we think is going to happen moving forward, while also briefly bringing up Denver at the end of the episode. We hope you enjoy because it is a great listen.
Game 6 of Miami versus Boston may have been the best basketball game I've seen in my life.
Whoa.
It may have been.
Whoa, that is a bold way to start. Whoa. Okay, let's get into it.
In my adult life where I can truly understand the game of basketball, I'll say that. Was that not insane?
Did you not watch Game 7 2016?
Bro, I was like in 9th grade. I'm saying when I can fully appreciate what's going on and I'm not just watching the ball go through the bucket. That's not a... Bro, it was a crazy game.
Raptors, Sixers, 2019, Game 7.
They're great games. This is you're downplaying this game.
No, I'm not downplaying this game. That's a
nostalgia bias, bro. I said it might have been.
But you know what? I really don't want to start getting into the deep root of this conversation from the get-go. So I'm gonna bring this up later on. But it was a great end to watch. I'll say that.
I thought the second half was very good. I thought the second half was very good. As a
game entirely, when the other side in the Miami Heat has a disappearance from their two superstars until Jimmy Butler kind of scored. I believe he scored Miami's last 11 out of the 13
We're going to
points.
get into that, yeah.
We'll get into that, crazy. But I'm just, you know what? I'm not going to get to the root of this conversation now. But I would really love to bring that point up again. And ask you, I think that's a recency bias thing. That might be nostalgia bias. I'm going to keep it real. But I mean, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. And there's nothing wrong with the opinion.
Yeah, dude's saying my opinion is wrong. I mean,
No, I'm not saying your opinion's wrong. I'm just asking you, like, are you sure? Like, there's a lot of good games.
Well, there's a lot of good games. And I can say, from a basketball perspective, even though it wasn't the playoffs, like a game when the Celtics played the Knicks on opening night 2022 or like in fall of 2021, that was like fireworks
RJ Barrett game winner.
That was another one. That wasn't as good as the other one. I'm talking about the Evan Fournier like opening night masterclass. Like he went for like 35.
Back when we thought he was worth 40. When we thought he was worth the money
for about 2 days. But yeah, it was more of like the excitement factor. Like I was just jumping because I could not believe that Derrick White had that tip in. But the first thing I want to talk about is kind of unrelated. Eric Lewis, the referee of like 19 seasons, got caught with a Twitter burner account. This is not some butt crack sports article, which I thought it would be. It's pasted on ESPN. It's everywhere. This dude in his receding hairline gets on Twitter to defend himself with an account that probably has like 250 followers. My question to you, because we know other guys have burners. I thought, didn't Colangelo have one? Obviously, Durant is rumored to have, probably has a couple. Why would you go about it in a way, like, is it just to get something off your chest if no one's actually going to follow the account? Like, would you rather pay someone like me who has a lot of followers, like, yo, put some respect on my name so it works like that and your name actually gets some light on it? Isn't that a better idea?
Number one, I mean, I think number one, the paying somebody else might be a little like more that's less dignifying risky. Yeah, that's like, and not only that, if that comes out, that's even sadder, if we're being honest. I'll be honest, this might be a hot take. Before I say it real quick, I want to mention I'm pretty sure Kevin Durant admitted to having one. I remember seeing something on Instagram of him like in an interview saying, yeah, I had one. He does not care. And to follow up on that and my hot take, I don't see the issue with having a burner account if you're a celebrity or if you're an athlete or if you're somebody who has the attention of hundreds of thousands of people on you, hating on you, right? Especially as an NBA referee, we know the type of hate they get. And to be fair, as much as I do not like the refs sometimes and they make some bad calls, a lot of people talk out of their caboose and go instantly to the refs to blame a game when their favorite team loses. We can agree on that, right? And it's like a great example, and we'll bring it up again, is the officiating in Game 6. We saw a lot of Celtics fans get mad for no reason because that was a clear foul on Jimmy, but we'll get back to that. Anyway, I don't mind that he has
I got to clear that up right now because there were some questionable fouls on both sides. When Tatum fell out of bounds too, And
yeah,
like,
I'm specifically talking about the final possession.
Little love tap. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I'm talking about the final possession specifically. But I will say this: I don't see the issue in having a burner account as long as you're not like going at somebody in a disrespectful manner. Like I don't know what the tweets were. That's the thing. I did not look into the story. I saw it on Instagram and laughed about it and threw it under the rug, just like anybody would. But if the tweets were just him standing up for himself, or like somebody's calling him out for reffing, or like even going as far as making threats, and he's just being like, "Yo, the officiating's not bad. You're just an idiot." There's nothing wrong with that. And that's what Kevin Durant was doing, right? When he was like, "Oh, he can't win in OKC with those cats. Outside of Westbrook, who did they have?" I'm gonna keep it 100. Who did we have outside of Westbrook, right? Like let's keep it 100. Like sometimes players want to tell the truth. They're human, just like we're human. And me and you get to come here and talk our trash, and I get to go on Instagram and comment.
Roberson sucks.
But nobody cares when I do it. Nobody cares when I do it because again, like I'm not like some sort of celebrity or whatever. Yeah. But Kevin Durant, he can't do that. But it gives me like, I'm happy when I do it. I love hating. So why can't these guys hate too? So, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's be real, right? So I don't see the issue with having a burner account as long as, you know what I mean? You're not doing it in a disrespectful manner. You're just standing up for yourself. Like, and I don't know what Eric Lewis tweeted. I'm not going to defend him, but I'm just saying, and if it's like the Kevin Durant scenario where he's just like calling out what his situation is, there ain't nothing wrong with that. What are you investigating? What's there to investigate?
Yeah,
the guy's just defending himself on social media. Why is there an investigation going on? Which
because
leads
there's
me to
rule.
Believe. But it leads me to believe there's something more serious to it. Because if there's a rule that you cannot defend yourself anonymously on the internet, that is freaking ridiculous. That is freaking ridiculous. Because that's just unfair at that point. You're asking an NBA ref to take hate and not being able to stand up for yourself, bro. Let's keep it real. Like,
well, I mean, I understand the internet's a different place, but if someone throws a plastic cup at an NBA player, they're not just allowed to go deck them. Like, I wish.
No, that's what I mean. That's the difference. So that's why I told you it depends on the situation. It depends on what they say. If they're just standing up for themselves, like for example, Kevin Durant saying, "I can't win in Oklahoma with Andre Robertson." What are you gonna fine him for? What are we getting fined for here? For being a bad friend? Like what? Kevin Durant fined $35,000 for being fake guy to Oklahoma. Like no, like that's not how it works.
He's not a real one to the city.
Which makes me think that Eric Lewis did do something because there's an investigation. Again, I'm not here to add any guarantees on anything. I didn't look into it. I'm gonna keep it 100. This is like a curveball thrown at the beginning of an episode. But if it's just like a burner account and him just like making NBA takes or whatever, bro, come on.
I think LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan. Period.
Nah, you know what? I just realized something. I might take everything I just said back because as an NBA ref, if they find a burner account of him being like, "I love you, LeBron. LeBron is the best. LeBron, I love you, LeBron."
I'm pretty
it's like,
sure
bro,
he's a Celtics fan. I thought I heard that. I'm pretty sure he's a Celtics fan.
Bro, this was a clear call on the Heat. They didn't call against the Celtics. No, wait, I'm officiating fair against the Celtics. There was no reason for me to not. That's funny. No, you know what? In the case of an NBA referee, maybe there should be an investigation. I take it back.
We're talking about Eric Lewis too much, but I was about to go on this whole spill about how you were tripping over the whole situation because this man is supposed to be objective to the game of basketball. So why is he getting a subjective voice outside of the game?
You're right. I'm not realizing he's a ref.
Sense.
I'm realizing. I just realized he's a ref. Like I was just thinking of it. I'm like, yo, he's low-key a human being. You know, like let the guy.
Let him express his feelings, man.
I love LeBron. Okay, let's get into the episode.
That's enough talk about Eric Lewis. Shout out him. Game 6. I think we need to pick it up in the second half, unless you have anything to say about the first half. Obviously, I think Tatum went for 25. He did some nice work inside the three-point arc, which, I'm very excited about because good teams need to win games when they can't shoot. And Miami has really done that, even though the role players have stepped up. They've done that against the Knicks. They pulled out, tough games against Milwaukee or whatever it is, just scrappy games. Usually the good teams win those. And early in the first half, even though the Celtics, I think for the game, shot 20% from three. It might have been a season low. I heard
20%,
Charles Barkley
7 for 35.
Yeah, it was real bad. And they still, didn't put up a huge number that they're used to, but their defense kept them in, range, and they attacked the basket in the first half. So we do want to kind of go on a timeline order because this episode is going to be strictly on Game 6.
Speaking of three-point shooting, you want to hear a crazy stat? Outside of Marcus Smart and Derrick White, the Celtics made 0 threes. and Marcus Smart and Derrick White only shot about half of their threes.
Derrick White is a hero. That guy is like
we're gonna
cold.
get into, and cool fact. I don't know if this was like I saw something about his dad saying that was his first ever game winner, which is amazing.
Just at like any level.
I don't know. I guess so. Like they asked Derrick White about it in an interview, and he's like, "Yeah, I gotta check my dad." So I don't know what that means, but yeah, I guess that was like his first game winner. I don't, which is cool. That's like the best thing to do, but the best way to get it. But
I think you do got to win Game 7 for him to actually feel it, though.
Yeah, he was like tearing up and stuff, and like that would kind of suck if you lose.
So getting into the start of the second half, Boston came out with a good stretch of play where they kind of had it at a 10-point lead, and Jimmy and Bam at the time were maybe 2 for 13 and 3 for 15, awful. It was to a point where Caleb Martin was being relied on for like bailout isolations, and he made a couple. Like, shout out Caleb Martin, but that's how down bad they were. But despite that, there were so many instances in the game where the game was stopped and there was like a 4-point play opportunity, just weird calls going on. And the Celtics turned the ball over, even though Miami just could not touch the net. And it just stayed at a 10-point lead. It felt like forever.
It was, and this is my way to define this game. And I want to circle back to your point for you saying that it was the best game you've ever watched. To me, in my opinion, in terms of like watching basketball, like the beauty of the sport, it was a mid-off for like 40 minutes. It was two teams with, I mean, shout out JT because he turned up. Him and JB had like a quick 10 to start the game each. Like they were playing great, right? But it was not like, it was like ISO mid-range shots, which is, I know you've been vouching for that all year, all season for the Celtics to start doing. And it's funny that superstars are finally doing it. I think they're listening to this show, if we're being real. But it was a big mid-off to me because for you to, like, when you classified it as the best basketball game you've ever watched, for me...
Bro, just let me be excited. It was recency bias, but we're talking about the game. I gotta get hyped.
It up. I'm bringing it up to prove up my mid-off
You're right.
point.
It's not top 5. The ending was great. That's what I'll say.
The ending was great. That's what I was going to say. I brought that up for you just so I could say this. If we were considering the last 5 minutes of the game, that's some of the best last 5 minutes I've ever watched in basketball history. You're right. Yes. That was amazing because guys turned up. But and again, I'm not going at you for this. I'm just saying, when Bam and Jimmy both play like trash, like Jimmy was 2 for 7 in the first quarter, didn't make a field goal until the fourth, I believe, because he was 2 for 15 at one point. I remember seeing it, and I was like, he was 2 for 7 in the first. So this guy was off. And it disappoints me because when Jimmy and Bam are off, and I'm watching Duncan Robinson legacy game, and Caleb Martin putting up 20 and 50, and shout out to them. I mean, they showed up, right? In my head, I'm like, okay, Miami should be down by 40. Why is this a close game? Then I look at the Celtics side. I want this to be clear, and this is my opinion. And if you don't like my opinion, I'm sorry. The Celtics did not come back from a 3-0 lead due to a coaching change or Mazzulla turning up. They made it off of pure talent. That team is basically coaching itself with those JT ISO balls and just get a player in ISO and let him get a shot off. That's basically what they do, right? Mazzulla, the coaching master, calls a challenge on the Jimmy Butler foul to end the game. Not only is it unsuccessful, but they check the shot, and guess what they see? It was a 3-pointer. It wasn't a 2-pointer. He goes up 3. And I look at that and I think, Mazzulla, how do you have a job? If I'm the Boston Celtics, I'm cutting him then and there, and I'm making Brad Stevens get out of the bleachers. I'm watching Brad Stevens sit in the bleachers. Bro, sit on the bench. Sit on the bench. You know what I mean? Ime Udoka gets kicked out and Brad Stevens wants to sit in the office. Come back for a season. Why is there a 34-year-old who was not the guy behind Ime Udoka, by the way, because the Celtics lost their number 2 and number 3 guy along with Ime Udoka. So Mazzulla's the 4th option, and they put him as an interim coach with a month left, with a month into the season. Fair enough. I mean, like, you only gave him a month, but at the same time, what are we doing? But I mean, big shouts to the Celtics. I've never seen a team come back like this from a 3-0 lead. I think it's the first time I've seen it in my life. We've only seen it 4 times in NBA history. All other times teams have lost. I'm really hoping for a Celtics win just so we can see history. But
yeah, I just had a gut feeling after the first Boston win, I was like, this is going to go to 7. And I do think that Boston pulls it out. Although I don't, we said it was like a guarantee that they win at home in Game 7. And in theory, like you won 3 straight and you're going back to a hype. This is no longer like a nervous hype where, you're down, like you have all the momentum. And you'd hope that they'd win. But I remembered that this is the 2023 Boston Celtics. And while they can look like the world champions every other night, the other times you're going to get like just this mishmash of just underwhelming fourth quarter play and just I don't
mishmash
know. My mom uses that word.
That's the first time I've ever heard that saying.
It's a mix.
Yeah.
A mishmash.
I mess with it. I understood completely what you meant. I mess with it. I'm not hating.
But yeah, I mean, the things that are exciting for Boston is that they just got really good role players. And if Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, one of them, right, we know they're the more talented team. Jimmy Butler has cooled off, which I expected him to do against the Knicks. I was hoping that the Knicks would kind of, roll past the Heat because of the Jimmy Butler wasting his 50-point performances, right? I never thought of him as this top 5 player in the world, which everyone has elevated him to, this Michael Jordan next coming. It had to happen at some point. It had to happen
every playoff run it happens.
So for the narrative, I'd personally like Jimmy to win the finals because I think that would be really cool, and I do root for him. But the hype has gotten a little much, which you told me yesterday after the game. But getting into it specifically, because we still have a lot of time, I wanted to go in like timeline order. Back to that third quarter where the Boston Celtics were up 10 and they couldn't pull away. There were a lot of just Marcus Smart, a turnover here or there, or a bad pass, or a scrappy play from like Kyle Lowry where they just ripped the ball. There was a point in the game where he ran the baseline. This is Kyle Lowry 3 times past like Al Horford and found a cutting Duncan Robinson. And then I think it was the next trip down the floor where he posted up Al Horford and did a jump hook.
Beautiful. Bro,
I was the most Kyle Lowry-esque basketball I've seen in my life.
I was literally yelling. I remember I'm sitting in the game. I'm watching the game. I'm yelling. This man thinks it's 2019 again. This man thinks it's 2019 again. And he did. I was like, oh my God, it's 2019 again. Like I was screaming for Lowry and Duncan Robinson. And you know how much I loved them with that little edit I have of them, back to back. That's something I sent you. But I loved how it actually almost came down to a Lowry Robinson legacy game.
So the bigger question about this third quarter, because we're talking about one team here that is going to make the finals, who concerned you less? Because both teams were concerning. Jimmy and Bam did not have it, and Boston couldn't pull away. We saw Jaylen Brown after the game. I don't know if you watched the post game.
Yeah.
Charles Barkley asked him, he's like, what happens with you guys when you're up and, and you should put this game away and it just doesn't happen? He's like, I think we're just afraid to mess up. We got to step up. Which, if we're being honest, I think he was being totally correct because you could see it out there with how players just don't demand the ball and kind of things like that.
Yeah. I mean, number one, JT should have been demanding every possession. Jason Tatum, like through the first half, the Celtics should have realized, okay, this could be the same game we saw in Philly when he dropped 50, right? Hand Jason Tatum the ball. But I will say this, to answer your question, this might sound crazy. I know they won, but I'm more concerned about the Celtics. For you to only win by 1 point when Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, the 2 biggest threats on the other side, are playing that bad. And then not only that, but their ace in Gabe Vincent also was missing layups. I don't know if you've noticed, Gabe Vincent had a great start, and then he just became, drive heavy, and he had way too many drives to the basket and wasn't getting any of them to go in, right? The Celtics should have been up by 20, maybe even 30 in this game, right? And it's ridiculous that they weren't. Now, you could ultimately bring it down to their three-point shooting. That they don't usually struggle like this from the perimeter. So if they have an average game from the line or from the three-point line like they usually do, this is a completely different game, of course, right? But we also didn't see an average game from either Bam or Jimmy. If Bam or Jimmy, you only need one of them to turn up. Not even turn up, just play like what your averages say you should be playing. And the Celtics to play the exact same way they played on Game 6, it's a Miami win, which is scary to me if I'm a Celtics fan. That being said, the Celtics also have, again, the issue with the perimeter shooting. So it really depends. Whatever team fixes the mistake that was holding them back will ultimately win the game. in Game 7.
I'm talking like even if they advance to the finals. I think that Miami is in deeper trouble because this is an elimination game where if you really look at it, I'm sure they were telling themselves in the locker room, we need this one. You know, we don't want to go to Boston Game 7. You already dropped 2. Like, let's put an end to this now. And Jimmy and Bam dropped duds. The only reason why Jimmy could go for it at the end was because Duncan Robinson, someone who was riding the bench the whole year, came in and stepped up big. Caleb Martin, who is playing well above his salary, is stepping up and is keeping you in this position where, you know, let's face it, they lost to the Hawks in the first play-in game. Like, this is the same team. So I'm really concerned with the stones of the team that are supposed to be like the rocks in an elimination game. Because if we're being real, like if Boston goes and blows them out, like we could say that like Game 6 was an elimination game. Because if that Boston crowd just rallies them and they keep that momentum going, I would be willing to call this an elimination game, and they really should have, regardless of what happens. I know Spoelstra was like, "Oh, if the ball bounces the wrong way, it just happened to end up in Derrick White's hands." Like, no, I don't know if you saw that replay, bro. Tatum was on the other side of the rim.
Yep, I said the same thing.
On the other side of the rim.
I said the same thing. I don't think that was the play they initially had. I think Marcus Smart genuinely just chucked up a shot that he shouldn't have chucked up.
Because I think he needed to chuck up that shot. First off, it was a good shot.
No, I do.
So
yeah.
But
it was the only shot they could get out.
It's the only shot they could get out. But I do think it was by design in that he was like a good bailout option. Because with 3 seconds left on the clock, most likely your best shot's going to be without a dribble.
Right.
I know they were looking for Tatum. But that to me was not a bad shot. I think it was drawn up the way it was. Like, if Tatum's not there, Smart will pop out, and it was a good look.
No, my point was that like Marcus Smart took a bad shot. I'm not saying Marcus Smart made a bad decision. I'm saying I don't think that's what the Celtics initially planned. But after Marcus Smart shoots
it was a good look.
Their plan B. No, but I'm saying their plan B to have Derrick White and Jason Tatum both cut to the basket, because Max Strus is not boxing out Derrick White like that, right? And Jason Tatum's gonna catch somebody off guard because the Miami Heat, the whole night they were having issues on the rebounding end, right? Like the Celtics were destroying them when it came to offensive boards. They had one too many. And
it would have been nice to. Wasn't Kevin Love not playing?
Yeah,
would have been nice to have him.
It would have been.
Boards.
It would have been. Like, and I'm not blaming it on Max Strus, by the way. Like that play, by the way. Like I saw a few people saying, "Oh, Max Strus should have boxed out." Blah blah blah. I'm not blaming that on him, but I'm just saying the Celtics, while I don't think they planned for that to happen, I think it was a bailout option because the play didn't work. They had a great plan B that, okay, if this shot goes up, we got every corner covered on that miss. And, hey, props to Marcus Smart. That almost went in.
Yeah, no, it was online. What I was talking about with the Heat, with saying that I think they're on the shorter end of the stick with, like, how disappointing their performance was, is if you go to play Denver, and we could talk about this with either team, like if Boston gets up and they choke a lead to Denver, or if they're in a big game and like Jokic is not going to let his foot off the pedal. This Denver offense, I think, is more consistent than that Boston offense. They run similarly where they have, a lot of perimeter shooting, but Jokic is a post-centric player who can consistently get himself good looks. And while Jason Tatum is that type of player, they don't have Mike Malone, who is telling him to go get those buckets. I think, it's unfair to say that Tatum is like falling short to Jokic offensively, because Jokic is one of the best offensive players we've ever seen. But that's just the type of talent you're going to face if you're Miami. And Jimmy Butler needs to play out of his mind if they want a chance.
Needs a Milwaukee series again. He needs to play the same way he did in Milwaukee.
And that's why I think because Boston, obviously talent-wise, matches up well with Denver. And they can have, you can drop a game. I'm not saying that, inconsistencies are good. But in a 7-game series, you got to have a couple of off games, and this can happen. But Miami, you can't lose an inch on them,
because they by the way, they just proved, Miami just proved that they can't, because they played great in the first 3. The second they slipped up against Boston, it's a 3-3 series now.
Yep.
So that point you just made, if anybody tries to go at that, it's literally just been proven in the last week with how Boston's destroyed Miami. But real quick, I want to mention this to you because I know I just brought up the rebounds. Would you say that, watching the game, it looked like the Celtics were dominating them on the rebounds, right? Like, they were getting boards that they shouldn't have.
On the offensive glass, I feel like they were being real scrappy, yeah.
They were being real scrappy, but they only had 12, and Miami had 17 offensive rebounds, and they both had the same amount of rebounds. I don't know if I was...
Well, Miami missed a lot of shots.
Maybe
So
that's why I'm tripping out then. It wasn't like important
bro,
rebounds. And I was going to say, I was like, am I tripping?
3 little push shots.
That, yeah, and he just would like grab them. You're right. Because I was going to say, like, Boston had a lot of important boards, bro. Like their work, Al Horford, by the way, GOAT.
That block was crazy. But I love Al Horford.
Yeah,
I love Al Horford.
He's the man. I don't think it's crazy to say this, but Jokic should be more scared of Al Horford than Bam Adebayo. Looking at this series, like I would rather have Bam Adebayo than Al Horford if I'm Nikola Jokic.
You just,
like guarding me. Like I'd rather have Bam Adebayo in front of me if I'm Jokic than Al Horford.
Al Horford's just a dog.
Bro, he's out here. I was thinking like, Al Horford's turning into PJ Tucker, like he's just like a corner sitter. Bro, this guy's hanging on the rim. I'm like, yo, when they gonna tee this guy up? You know what I mean? Like I'm loving it, man. I'm loving him.
I do remember the play against Giannis in, what was it, last year? 2 years? It was last year. In Milwaukee, Game 6, when Tatum had that crazy game. I think it was this one. Al Horford got dunked on by Giannis, or like Al Horford was in the area and he stared him down, right? And Al Horford's like shaking him off. He gets the ball next possession, pump fakes, gets dude in the air, drives baseline, then yams it on an and one. Oh, I love Al Horford.
And you tell me the Hawks aren't a super team in 2015, but let's continue. I mean,
that had nothing to do with it.
I just wanted to bring up some Al Horford love.
The last thing that I do want to harp on, because you mentioned it before, the ending of the game was immaculate. We already mentioned how the Celtics crashed the board, but that foul on Al. First off, it was not. I'm not upset with Al Horford because I do think you got to contest that shot with how Jimmy was feeling.
Yes,
because he hit a 3 right in that spot before, so I'm not going to blame him for. It didn't look like in the shooting motion to me. It's just a good play from Jimmy Butler. I'm not blaming Al Horford.
Yes.
But with how much time that the bench usually has, like 5 or 7 seconds, the coach like stares back. He's like, yo, should I challenge this? They'll give him like 5-7 seconds for the other dude with the clipboard or the iPad. He's like, yeah, bro, we got it. The fact that that they just like the players kind of tricked him into like, out of emotion. It's like, oh, we have a challenge, wrap it up. And he just called it blindly. Like that's what I saw. That is they're lucky they won the game. We would have been on his butt.
That's why thank you for mentioning that, because that proves my point further. The Celtics are coaching themselves. The Celtics genuinely coach themselves. They make the decisions. Like I think Missoula still doesn't have like a say in the locker room like the way other coaches do. Like for example, if they match up against Mike Malone has his guys in check. Missoula does not have his guys in check the same way Denver will, right? And it's like, man, I remember they challenged the thing, and I look at and I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, I get why you would challenge it because it's the last second, but then I see 2 free throws. And I'm like, this is obviously a clear foul. You are actually risking an extra free throw. And the cherry on top was they got the extra free throw from watching the challenge. And I think this will literally go down, because I know challenges are new to the game, but that actually might go down as one of, if the Celtics lose, as the worst challenge in NBA history. Oh wait, no, it doesn't matter because they won the game anyway. It doesn't matter. But it's still one of the worst challenges in NBA history to me.
I agree,
because it's just I genuinely, shout out Missoula, because I've never laughed harder at a game in my life. Like I was overcome with joy from laughter.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Malone has like his voice down to like a whimper on the sideline.
No, I love him. And he's such a bro. Like, he's such an underrated guy to, like, for example, like, they asked him questions about the Lakers the other day. Like, they're still asking the Nuggets about the Lakers, by the way. I don't know if you know this.
I've seen it was like the headlines for the Lakers are that was the most competitive sweep in NBA history.
Yeah, and it's like Mike Malone's response was the most, like, the greatest response I've ever heard. They're out fishing and we're still playing. I was like, yeah, you can't argue with that right there. Like, I mean, like, geez, ridiculous. We're gonna go a little off track here if we start talking about, we're not gonna be like ESPN talk about the Lakers. They have nothing to do with this episode. But back to the Celtics.
Well, there isn't much else to wrap up with Game 6. I mean, we've already gone over like, what's going to happen with Denver, whenever they play one of these teams. Content's getting very repetitive. We hope you guys like the new mics we got. These are like top of the line suckers.
Yeah.
So we got some nice bass in our voice.
We got the same ones as As we got the Shore mics, man. Travis and Jason Kelsey used it in their podcast. That's how I found them.
Yeah, they're
top of the line.
Beautiful.
Top of the line. So shout out to New Heights. Also, like you said, the content is gonna get kind of repetitive, especially with the finals. Like, we're not gonna have a lot to talk about.
They're
going
to be more like
recaps.
these length episodes.
But we do have like a lot of stuff lined up after the season's over. We just don't want to do those type of episodes because you don't really want to hear us do those like creative type episodes when, you know, Derrick White hits the game winner of his life. Like, we're not gonna put out. Well, I'm not gonna spoil what we're gonna get out
Let's
after the season's over.
Let's draft all-time jerseys.
Derrick White, it's like the greatest Game 7 ever, and I'm on here. I'm like, where would Carmelo Anthony rank in this year's end?
Paul George or Carmelo Anthony?
Oh, yeah, no, we got like guests lined up and stuff. It's gonna be fun. I mean, it feels weird. Like I'm seeing the 30-minute mark, and I want to keep going, but you're right. There's not much else to harp on.
The last thing I want to say is going back to Denver. Whatever matchup it's going to be, you know, the national TV, like the overtimes of the world, it's like, oh, this is a snooze fest. Real basketball fans are going to love this. First off, because it's good basketball. The Celtics, when they're hot, play incredible basketball. I just love watching the ball swing around. Miami is just a gritty playoff team, which I personally love watching those kind of defensive games. And Jokic is just a phenomenon in himself. But all three teams have something to like prove.
Yeah.
This is not just LeBron in the finals, you know, Steph Curry, and like this is like it's going to be a dog
number
fight.
17.
It's going to be a dog fight.
Or what was it, banner 18? Are they going to raise banner 18? Like, no, I don't. Nobody wants to see that. Like, seriously, I'd rather see a new banner raised in Denver, because right now the only things they have is Dikembe Mutombo's number retired and Alex English right there beside him. Like, they need a new banner.
Ski rental shop, hot chocolate cafe.
You know what? I have one more question to ask you. I know we're kind of wrap up, but I want to ask you about this. Do you believe in that theory that players have a disadvantage playing in Denver?
Yeah, for the first, I've heard people on podcasts. I mean, I have not been to Denver myself, but I'm just going to take their words for it, because this is not like a basketball theory question.
Right.
Or like if you ask Gilbert Arenas, who's top 5 player, right? This is way more objective than that. I've heard people say that, you know, when you're of that level of athlete, it's not like when you get winded and you're just kind of toast because you ate bad the day before. Like, no, these guys are trained professionally. So I think it's more so, I've heard that it's the first 5-10 minutes of the first quarter where you get gassed, and then you kind of just settle in. What have you heard?
That is crazy to think about. I saw Kevin Garnett and Bones Highland talking about it, and I wanted to mention it considering that Denver's going to have that home court advantage. And
yeah, I don't think it's
actually no. Boston has sorry, Boston will have it if they win. Miami,
I think it's more
obviously
prominent in the regular season when you just gotta, like, at the end of a long road trip. The last one's Denver. It's like, already gas. We played it back to back, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's very true. Either way, I don't care who wins this East matchup, though. I think Denver takes it all. But this is the most unpredictable. I think we could agree this has genuinely been the most unpredictable season as a whole that I've ever seen in the NBA. From John Morant to Miami Heat 8 seed making it. To like, it's just been random. Like, there has been some random things, and so I'm expecting the unexpected with the way. Like, watch Miami win Game 7. That would be the most.
I mean, anything could happen. I felt like I was robbed of basketball when I saw Kawhi Leonard go down and Paul George wasn't playing, and Zion's hurt again, and
he wasn't hurt, by the way.
Lonzo Ball didn't make the Bulls semi-competitive.
He wasn't like in the right mind to play basketball. He was
Paul George?
physically able. No, Zion. He was physically able to play, by the way.
What?
Yeah, I don't know if you heard about that. I saw something that Zion was physically able to play, but he just wasn't in the right mind space for it.
I thought I heard he was like cleared for basketball activities. He just couldn't like.
I just saw something that he was just like didn't feel like himself.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want him on the Knicks anymore. Bro doesn't want it.
I'm trying to bring it up just to like, was healthy, and
Google search mid-pod.
Yeah. No, sorry. Okay, so they cleared the rumors. They said he was never cleared to play. That was
all right.
Oh, because no. But it wasn't a rumor. Williamson himself said he was cleared to play, and the GM of the Pelicans said no, he lied. So maybe they're just covering up for him.
That's
David Griffin said that Williamson. Bro, David Griffin said that Williamson was never physically cleared to play basketball, despite his comments that he was physically okay to play. He meant he was not currently injured, but he was never physically cleared to play basketball. That sounds like a lot of and they lost to the Thunder in like the last possessions. I don't know if you remember that playing game. Like Zion would have changed that game completely. I mean, we're kind of going off topic. I don't want to waste the listeners' time, but just so you know, yeah, that's who the Knicks are missing out on.
Well, the moral of the story was, even though we're missing out on basketball, quote unquote, we're getting very good basketball. So I'm happy.
Very good. And if you're the type of person to say it's a snooze fest and you're not going to watch the finals, then I'm sorry, you're not a real
person.
Yeah, you're you're the type of person to judge a player based off of highlights and Instagram reels, and you're not going to look deep into a guy. Pause.
I was gonna unmute.
Yeah, I was
thinking,
that. Yo, wait, yeah,
bro, cut it. We're at 35.
Yeah.
Cut it.
Yeah.
Later.
Peace. Thank you for listening. We'll see you guys later.